Give me a minute. Is it blocking the view?
We are deeply tired and we are deeply exhausted. We are deeply affected by how the world is happening. It's such a fun little word. We've become very individualized people, and maybe we like being around the ASMR of daily life. I should ask you a question.
Yes, please. Imagine entering a place where you don't have to talk, you don't have to do forceful networking, you don't even have to smile. A place where you can just be, where your presence is welcomed, but your participation is not expected. In this episode of Andar Ki Baat, we are going to explore a radical idea, quite but radical idea, of having a place where nothing is expected out of you, the no agenda space. And with me, I have the person who has brought this idea to life. We have Meghna with us. Hey Meghna, hi.
Thank you for that introduction.
How are you doing?
Very awkward after that introduction.
First of all, tell us where we are.
We are at my home, and we are at Millie's home, my dog's home. And yeah, it's in Indranagar, but it is my actual home. I've built this home. So yeah.
So before we talk about the no agenda space, tell me a little bit about who you are.
I'm mostly my dog's mother. I'm Millie's mother. I think my Instagram bio is a very good description of who I am in 3 words, which is books, dogs, cold coffee. That's who I am. I'm filled of only that.
Oh, lovely. I love that. So tell us a little bit about what is the no agenda space.
It's actually a space. Today it's in my home, but can be anywhere, where women or queer people or non-binary people can come and they can just be. I don't have an expectation of them to talk to me, or I don't have an expectation of them to do things for me. I just want them to be.
Lovely. So your space is open for women and queers who identify themselves as women. Is there any specific reason behind doing that?
I mean, first would be safety. And I think it is a masculine world. It is a world designed for men or the male sex specifically. Thereby, it makes sense to create these pockets which is for the female sex who identify with any gender.
I want to talk more about that, but I'm very curious to know what got this idea to you. What made you think of a place like No Agenda?
I think I keep trying to solve my own problems. It's not that I'm the only person who has control of my life, and thereby I have to solve for my own problems. And I've been trying to solve for the problem of different things. One is sometimes maybe not being in the energy to talk, but still want to have people around. Sometimes having a sort of social anxiety. I don't want to use anxiety in the clinical term here, but more in like a very it's a non-clinical version of social anxiety, where you're expected to behave a certain way, even if the other person is not expecting you to do so. There's social gatherings where you behave a certain way, and I get exhausted. I think the third is very much struggling to say who am I in concrete terms, especially relating that to my work, because my work is where I bring a lot of heart, but it's fairly spread out in thematic areas. Then also, of course, the Bangalore problem of traffic and not being able to make plans with people because it's too far away. And lastly, I do believe that there has been an earlier time in my life and I have been an advocate for things to not happen. And I think today I know I personally know can't prevent it. I can only help other people who are doing that. So if I had to ask myself, what can I do? I think I can help in the rehabilitation, or I can help in the recovery. So the first part of my life is more to prevent. I think the second part is more on if it has happened, the now what of the happened. And I think the now what of what has happened in the world is that we are deeply tired and we are deeply exhausted. We are deeply affected by how the world is happening. The rich 1% decide how we are supposed to live our life, and I can't stop that, but I can give you a space to maybe recover, because in your company, I recover too.
That's such a wonderful idea to think of, that in your company I recover too.
Yeah.
Lovely. I think you wrote about this somewhere on your Instagram, where you wrote, we all need guardians of our solitude.
Yes, it is a book I read, and I actually keep it a lot. Raina Mary Rilke's Letters to a Young Poet, where he's writing a series of letters to a person who wants to become a poet. And he says, in the end, love is all about being guardians of each other's solitude. And I think it is truly that.
Wow. You talked about performance right before, right? So, do you think that we are conditioned to perform as we grow up, or is this a innate human characteristic that you do perform whenever you are in a social setting?
We all have drives, but we are conditioned that our drives should look a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying, so if we were not performing, the question is, if we are not performing, then what are you doing? And I think that the question is, you are following your drive. But we are following a script given to us and we are performing it. So, yes, I mean, yes and no, it depends where you were born, who were your parents, what social conditions you were born in. But most of us are less given the pleasure of following our drive and more asked to follow the script, and if following a script is a performance.
But do you think it is more so for women as a gender, or is the balance skewed in some sense?
Both parties are performing. However, if the design of the world was masculine, then it makes sense that the male sex might be finding it a little easier to perform. Women have more punishments on non-performance.
Very interesting. I want to understand this. When somebody comes to the No Agenda space, that is your house, you're not a hostess. You're not hosting anybody.
Yes, I can't host.
So, whoever is coming in is neither a flatmate, nor a friend, nor somebody you know. So, do you think that gives a certain form of liberation for whoever is coming in to really be themselves, because they don't have any obligation, they don't owe anything to anybody?
Yeah, but a lot of people get confused. They don't know what is the relationship to have with me. I think the relationship is shared solitude. That's the reason. And I think we talk a lot in terms of labels, whether you're a partner, a friend, foe, etc. And I think we can talk in terms of relations, and the relations are of solitude.
Why do you think people who discover the No Agenda space come here? What have you seen people doing, the ones who come?
I really don't like to observe people. I don't like that at all. I do enjoy people resting, I think, or just somebody will come, somebody makes tea, so someone feels like talking, they'll go to the tea section. Like we're so naturally organizing, but it's such a gentle organizing. If someone's gone outside to take a breather, women have naturally known that, acha, so then I can talk. Yeah, but I'd like to not, I hope to not be monitoring people. But as I go about my day, I'm hoping they're enjoying.
Lovely. You've also written somewhere that whoever comes here defines what care means for them.
No, I think that piece was more on care being a co-definition with whoever you are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can think about the scale of the co-definition. The scale of the co-definition in the largest possible scale is actually policy. But the scale of the co-definition in an intimate space like this is two people being able to say what is it that they want. I know people can't talk to me, so I have defined what it is for me.
Mm-hmm.
And people who probably have the similar definition find it easier to, are the ones who come here. I've tried to not, I've tried to not use labels like extrovert, introvert, because the version of introvert for me might be version of extrovert for someone, right? I don't know where I was going with this. What I was trying to say is the co-definition of care is that I, in general, would like to talk less. I, in general, will not host. I will only signal where things are. And I, in general, have a moderate energy level, and sometimes I procrastinate on my tasks a lot, so it's really helpful to have another person. So multiple times I've told people like, hey man, today I have to finish doing this, can you just ask me in 1 hour? And I think people have done the same, like, hey man, I need to get this done, can you ask me? I'm like, yeah, okay. So I think I like that. I like knowing, I really like knowing that very hopefully honest part of a person.
Many times, people that I have spoke to, and I have spoken about no agenda and the idea of it because I found it so intriguing. They have come back asking if that is what I wanted to do, if I wanted company when I work, or if I wanted to do something of my own. Why won't I go to a co-working space?
I think it's a very valid question. I think they give you food, I give you nothing. I don't even make things for you. But, I mean, okay, so one thing to know about me, in who am I, I would like to not be fixed to one answer. So, a lot of my answers will change depending on the input variables I'll consider. So, I started to tell people that I have strands. So, I can answer the same question from a strand. A strand can come from a change in a variable, a strand can come from by being in a different dynamic. The reason I said this is, I do think one of the strands is that it's much cheaper to work from my place. For sure, I wanted to keep it that way. I only kept a nominal amount, and if I had to continue, I would probably keep it at 150 because I have to keep a lot of things in place, and also always remembering that I'm not the host. I can't take extra work for have had people, and sometimes that helps. The another strand to explain the same phenomena could be that we've become very individualized people, and maybe we like being around the ASMR of daily life, which sometimes looks like a bed creaking, a blanket being folded, a dog barking, which is not a cafe, it is always more sanitized than the domesticated nature of a home. And this is a very, like this, my dog is screaming half the time. I would probably have to be doing some dusting somewhere. My dog has peed, like it's home. It's home in every form of its mess. And the second strand could be that. And the third strand could be that I really don't need people to be polite to me. I think the only thing I don't like people messing with my personal space. I usually have a tendency to say, "Aaj main yahan se kaam kar rahi hu." After that, honestly, all on you. So 3 strands.
A space or idea like no agenda has been accessible to somebody like me because I have exposure to, say, I am on Instagram, I am scrolling, I have the time to leisure. Essentially, I'm talking about class that exists.
Absolutely,
right?
It's such a great call out. I think anybody who's called me out that I cater to a certain class, I said, yes, I'm not even going to try to contest it.
Right.
Honestly, though, if I do well in my life to have the money, I would build this home in every street for everybody. Because sometimes I think everybody wants spaces of joy. Also, to have a self call out, I think, I have worked in communities. I was a community teacher. So there, in the natural design of this space, which was very constrained, and you're living in a 100 square feet house, you all did get together. They have economic deprivations, but their communal senses were higher than us. Mine just sounds cooler because I have quite the amount of privilege to make it look a certain way. If I am good at what I do in the next 10 years, I hope that this is open for all.
That is what my question was going to be, that how do you think we can make the circle bigger?
I think I play a lot from a design lens, which is to say, to start questioning, to stop thinking in terms of labels like room, house, but to think in terms of, it's basically space. So if we start asking what else, the answers can change. Like example, a bus stop is a space. If we kept water there, and if we start saying that this corner you can rest, that's also utilization of space. I don't think we need to build more infrastructures as much as we need to utilize our current infrastructures better, and also make sure that the current infrastructures, public infrastructures, are not utilized by only a certain class group. By that, I mean to say that a public park should see everybody walking there, and the rules of the space should be defined by the action in the space, which is walking or sitting. And I don't know how to go there. I have an earnest endeavor that I would want to go there. I have enough self-awareness, or I'm trying to build that self-awareness to say I am very privileged. So I shouldn't be the one talking for people who are different than me. So the only thing I can do is to ensure I go talk to them and ask them if they can come to the table or build. Yeah, but it's a tough rope to navigate. My privilege is my privilege. And there is no concrete answer as much as there needs to be a constant deliberation of what does my privilege mean and do. I am on the journey. I don't have one answer.
Thank you for that. You said that public spaces should be available to people who are, using them across classes. I was reading about this somewhere that
Namakatte.
Namakatte is something that I came across from your page only. I think they are doing an incredible job.
Indu Menon is cool like that. She made this. Katte means, I think, space in Kannada. So this is a space where people from a different community than mine, significantly different income group, whose daily job is possibly to be a domestic worker, do hang out for a cup of tea. I think a lot of potentials for kattes to be built. Honestly, these are all natural extensions of current infrastructures. Like, we can just turn all the garages into kattes.
Right.
You just have to make sure it's hygienic, healthy, and all of that. So yeah. But your question being?
My question was that, very cool that you mentioned it, because in urban spaces, what we are talking about, say kattes, in tier 2, tier 3 cities, these are organically already existing, right? So do you think then cities are specifically designed in a way to put you in isolation with the hyper productivity somewhere in the context?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I come from Assam. It's a really enjoyable experience to go back to Assam every time, because the pace is very different from a Bangalore, for sure. And yes, cities are very hyper productive. but also like I don't know what to say, because I think in the end, if productivity brings you money, money brings you health, and how do I
Right.
even tell you to how do I have a moral stance on it? In the end, your health insurance. So technically, I should have had very good government issued health insurance for anything that would happen to me. Otherwise, yeah, if you're working there, I understand why you will need to work too. I am digressing again from the question.
So where I was coming from is, I was reading somewhere that the way benches were designed before, also the number of benches that used to be there before in parks, they are changing rapidly. So they are now, you're not meant to, you cannot lie down in a park bench because there are now separations on the bench. There are also lesser support. The benches that are there are now just straight benches, so that if you want to, just sit leisure, do nothing. There is that. The new parks that are coming up are redesigned that way so that keep moving. Don't sit here too much. I found that very fascinating. Is why I was asking you this. Do you
Very
think cities are?
Yeah. I think, I mean, I have a grudge for anything that's built for efficiency. Nothing human is efficient. I know that's a very tall claim to make. But yeah, I mean, our humanness is in our inefficiency, I think.
I see a lot of colors, pencil colors, sketch colors.
I am a maximalist, as you can see.
Lot of books.
I have a lot of colors. I had to ask myself, Meghna, do you want to be a minimalist? I was like, nahi yaar, maximalist hi bante hai. Though I actually do play with soft furnishings a lot. That's my tip, basically, to most people from design. Like, soft furnishings, you can play with soft furnishings. So when I actually want, sometimes my mind is so crowded that I actually put a full white bed sheet. Like, I have a white set to just feel reduction in color. And mostly I think one of my friends says there's like, I had this conversation with my friend. I was like, yeah, I'm selling all my clothes. I just want staples. And she's like, Meghna, you're not a person who can have staples because colors are your personal choice of fashion. I was like, that's true. I actually don't own staples. I have very colorful things. I decide which days I feel like I just want to be too loud on colors. It's just very funny in my brain. I like it.
It's a refreshing take because everything is heading towards minimalism now, So that's
I'm such a maximalist.
What I was getting to was, is this the color bit or having things not very put together? Like, there are colors, like when I was out there in that rocking chair, and there were like books and there were colors that were just there. I could just pick one up and do whatever I wanted to do with it. Is that mindfully done, or is that how you have?
Yeah, I'm mostly coloring also there, but I also know from a design perspective that people actually find it a barrier to open and then to color, because we have said that art must be made by artists, but the intention of art is sometimes to unfurl as a person. So while I've not been doing a great job, but technically I would have kept all the things thrown around. It can't look organized. You should look like jate you can do a quick sketch. I usually sit there if I want to and sketch. These days it's been very closed. My boxes are closed, but it actually should be open. That's actually the best. It should be designed as a playroom. It's too much performance to even open my drawer and say I'll use colors, no? Because you're telling me, I mean, people actually have said that it is uncomfortable. So if I sit down and start to do it myself, they'll join me. I should ask you a question.
Yes, please.
Why? What were reasons to not interview me?
Because I do not consider myself to be hyper aware of. That's why I asked you that question about care. Because caring and being cared for are two very different things. I might ask you a question thinking, oh, it will be a new perspective for me. But then that is a very selfish way of maybe asking that question. You might feel that this is very, very encroaching to me. I don't want to answer that. So I'm always I'm trying to work on that. How do I gauge that better? So one of the things would be that if I end up asking, because whatever we are talking about today are things very sensitive, you know, these are not things you can have on quick chats. You don't talk about these very often. So that will be my number one reason.
Makes you very ethical. So thank you so much for that.
Why did you ask me that question?
I try to think. Sometimes people find it easier to answer the yes. Sometimes people don't know why not. I'll ask people both questions. But I think, yeah. What is a question you wish people asked you?
Asked me.
Here is my, because I'm thinking, when did I start thinking about this? Sometimes I would be in parties and I was asked the same question. I was really bored of answering the same question. But sometimes I wish someone asked me this question. Like, and it's a very weird question. Like, Meghna, what did you underline today and why did you choose that color? It's only specific to me. Nobody would know this question. And the reason that I wish somebody would ask me that question is because I'm so excited in my head that I need to tell people. But itna context hota hai uska ki nobody's going to get it. So I try to understand what is that, like what is a question that you wish somebody asked you because you get to speak about it.
Very interesting. I think a question that I wish somebody would have asked me would be, why are you doing this in the first place? Because I have a very demanding job as is. I am obviously not getting paid to do this. I do not aspire to be an influencer. I have had a lot of struggle to identify what is it that I really enjoy doing. And I think my entire 20s have been a struggle to figure that out. So I have like really ran around to see, okay, what is it that I like doing? I need to figure it out. And I think this came about very naturally, that I want to talk to people. And I'm very excited about this whole process, you know. People that I have spoken to, I have really enjoyed those conversations, is why I have spoken to them going back. So yeah, the entire process is very fascinating and I love to talk about it. I love to share about it, that what worked, what didn't work, why did I talk to this person. So yeah, I think that's a question that I think someone would have asked me, but thank you for that question. I would also want to know at the end, what did you underline today and what was it about?
I was reading a book called 50 Sounds, which is a book about translation, but is about the emotion of sounds, not the meaning of the sound. It's a Japanese book, so it has beautiful things in it and I just love it.
What is the name of the book again?
50 Sounds.
Oh.
50 Sounds by Polly Barton. So it's not about Meghna went to a market. So you can translate by getting the exact whatever sentence right. But it's the feeling of the translation. It's a feeling of the sound of the Japanese language, which seems to have a lot more words for my feelings than I think English or anything does. Yeah. Japan has a bunch of really good feelings. I was reading one on, I'll not pronounce it. It's GIT or something like that. But it basically means that time in your life when you are not scared to use your eyes or your body part with the entirety of it. Like when a person, you have no issue looking and like, what did you say? Like it's a specific definition she's given and I was like, yeah, that's the most non-performative thing, like using your body to eyes to that question. So
yeah, I wanted to ask you that you opening up No Agenda space and people who have been here have then gone back and opened up their houses. What are your thoughts on that? How do you feel about it? Was this something that you expected would happen?
No, I didn't. I'm so grateful to those women. I want more people to open up, but I don't want to put the pressure on women. So now that's a catch-22 on me. Like, I don't want to pressurize women. I do think it would. There's also safety. I'm very lucky in my house structure that this is actually quite, by design, it's a very safe house because of the outside area. So it's a catch-22 for me. Now,
I have two very last questions for you. One is, whoever is coming to this space, the No Agenda space, if there was one feeling that you wish they would have taken away with themselves, what would it be?
one is Nobi Nobi, the sound of space. And the second one is Du. I don't know how to pronounce these. The sound of always and never having been like this. Okay, I really like that one a lot. And I think the last one would be, wait. Wait, where did it just go? It's such a fun little word. Mushi mushi, the sound of insects being forced from your body, or laughing as you vocalize an unthinkable situation, or being steamed alive. Basically, the sound of anxiety leaving your body is how I think about it.
I'm going to pick up this book, but if you had to suggest, I will also show the plethora of books that you have with you. But if you had to suggest one book,
Definitely this current favorite. There's also Ross Gay, Book of Delights, which is him writing one delightful thing every day, and it's very nice. There is also, for sure, I keep saying Ross Gay everywhere, only I've told Ross Gay. Mary Oliver's Devotions, for sure, for poetry. Anxious People by Frederick Backman, a lot. Those for sure these days, I would say. Like, these are, if I had to say, these are my bedside books. Like, this is now my bed. I will for sure have this on my bedside.
those were my questions. Thank you so much, Meghna, for talking to me today. And
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
for holding space in your house and in this conversation. Thank you so much.
So my work got very stressful, and being around people actually helps me get done with things. Person who is there to listen whatever you have to say and provide nothing, just nothing in return feels good. So yeah, I think that's the reason I keep coming back.